But the thing that keeps coming up is the empowerment piece.
Mm-hmm.
How do we empower our children, and what can we do within the school and through the home and as a team to do that? How can we make sure that children feel like they're in control and that they are able to demonstrate that power to other people? What does empower mean? We're giving power or authority. We're enabling in a positive way. We're giving the skills to our children to help them be able to stand up for themselves, to feel assertive, to feel confident. Now, we all know that sometimes standing up for ourselves, we can try, and it may not turn out the way we hoped it would be, but still having the ability to do that and having the confidence to do that is that first step. But we want to make sure that we are empowering our children to be able to feel comfortable in difficult situations, bullying and otherwise, so that they don't feel like they're stuck. They still feel like they have control over their lives and they have power in what happens next. There's two key parts to empowering. There's belief and there's action. And when I work with students, I make that very clear to them. The first part is believing that I can have power, recognizing that I do have control over parts of my life. Even the little things, like students will tell me, you know, I have no choice, I have to come to school. Well, actually, you don't. You don't have to walk through those doors. You could turn around and walk somewhere else. But I couldn't do that, I get in trouble. But you could. You're choosing to walk in the doors. You are choosing not to have those consequences. You're choosing to be a part of this community. And just realizing, helping them realize that I do have choice, I do have power. I am responsible for my actions. I am not just the victim of whatever else is around me. So that belief piece, that perspective, that self-confidence that I'm capable of being assertive. A lot of students who, especially ones who have had a history of being victimized, they don't feel like they can be assertive. If I give them the idea of, so what would happen if you just, you know, if you stood up and you told them to stop, or you responded instead of walking away? I couldn't do that. How could I do that? Because they've learned to be a victim. Now, within this presentation, there is by no means am I implying that we don't address the bully as well. That's another piece of intervention, obviously. But I want to make sure that we are not leaving children without feeling that sense of empowerment and ability to handle situations. So the first part is the belief. The second part is action. Actually learning how to be assertive. What is appropriate? What's appropriate in one situation may not be helpful at all in another situation. And being able to come up with strategies. What am I comfortable with doing? How can I be assertive? How can I be empowered? What can I do to gain that and to gain control over the situation? Because I can get it. So those are really the two key aspects of what empowering is. So what do we do? Well, we've already talked a little bit about a number of the things that are happening. We're a tight community. All the administration, we work very close together. I think closer than I've seen, definitely closer than I've seen at other middle schools. And we really work with these kids, and we come up with ideas, and we work together to make these ideas happen. And there's a number of things that just on my end that I've been involved in. One is the ABC mentoring program. That stands for Aprende-Brisas Cares. That is starting this month. We've selected 30 students from middle school and 30 students from Brisas, and they are being matched with mentors. The Aprende students are being mentors to the Brisas students. And they're going to be going over to Brisas once a week and working with them, working with their mentee, whether it's on recess and just hanging out, or whether it's in the classroom working on academics, things like that. Yes?
I'm sorry, are these kids at Brisas that have problems with having encountered bullying and stuff, or are they actually selected because of that?
The students that are selected on both sides are students who are in need of some sort of positive experience to help them feel more empowered and to just have better. A lot of the students that were referred have low self-esteem or have challenges in the classroom and they don't feel very confident. Or they've had experiences where they've been victimized and so they're not very assertive. So the students who have been chosen were very carefully chosen through referrals from teachers and administration, both Aprende and Brisas side. And so we are matching the students, and you know, we have 3 different groups. We have the 8th graders are going over to be with the 5th graders to kind of be their mentors. 6th grade is going to work with 4th grade. 7th grade is working with 1st and 2nd graders. And we're starting it up. We're doing orientations. The students are so excited about it. It's being presented as a very positive. They've been selected to be a part of this, and we're hoping to expand it as well. But they'll be starting that this month, actually going over. Next week they get to all meet each other in mixers that we're hosting over at Brisas. And then the following week they get to actually start going over. So it's something that we're doing. We're promoting a caring community, and we're also providing opportunities for these students to feel like they are a part of something that matters and what they are doing is important. And that's a piece of that empowerment, is to feel like what I'm doing is important. What I have to say, what I have to give is important. And the middle schoolers who have been in the orientation so far have just lightened up at the idea of you have something to share. There are children over at Brisas who maybe you felt like them before. Maybe you felt like you don't quite fit in. Maybe you feel a little bit disconnected, and they can all relate to it in some way. So they're very excited about that. So we're hoping for success as that program moves forward. Another thing that's been done is in the first semester, I presented to every single classroom, 2 classrooms at a time, at Aprende, ACT presentations. And this was, ACT stands for Acknowledge, Care, and Tell. The purpose of the presentations were for students to recognize what does it mean to be healthy, mentally and physically. How do I know if a friend is not healthy? What are the signs that someone is having a hard time, that someone needs help, that someone might do harm to themselves? What are the signs for myself? How do I know if things are going wrong and I need some help? So the acknowledging piece, the caring piece, how do we extend ourselves as a friend to other friends? A lot of times, and this is another piece of the empowerment, a lot of times just with our own friends, if our friend is sad or depressed or something horrible happens in their life, we, even as adults, don't really like to deal with that all the time. So we might back down because we don't necessarily feel confident in how to deal with it. We don't know what to say, so we say nothing. Same thing with the middle schoolers. So helping them understand, what can you do? What can you say to someone who is feeling really depressed? What can you say to someone? How can you show people that you care? And encouraging them to explore that so that then they feel more empowered and able to be a part of that interaction. And then the last piece of ACT is tell. And so we went into quite a bit of discussion about who to tell and why we tell and how it's not tattling, it's helping a friend in need. So those presentations were done for all the students at Aprende during the first semester. And then, of course, I'm so grateful for the social work interns who are amazing, because there's no way I could handle the counseling load without them. But we do have counseling supports, and most of the counseling supports I do are individual, and it can be any sort of focus: behavioral redirection, self-perception, self-esteem, assertiveness. I do a lot of one-on-one, especially with female middle schoolers who are just, feeling really kind of down on themselves, and we work on assertiveness. And then there's also a girls groups that have been going on, and we're trying to get an additional one started up this semester to address that. So we use a lot of discussion, role modeling, and practice through those counseling sessions. And I have some students who are just kind of on an as-needed basis, and they come when they need it. And then I have others who are coming in once or twice a week because that's how often they need it. So we try to offer whatever the students need. So within the idea of empowerment, we're looking at those 2 aspects, belief and action. What is it that's belief? And this is kind of like I already said. The key part of the belief piece is recognizing that I have control. I am constantly making choices about my life. I have control over what happens next. And then realizing that I have the power. And a lot of times I will talk with students who have been victimized, or even students, even if it wasn't necessarily a bullying situation, but someone who has taunted the other student, led to a fight, something like that. I've talked to a lot of students who are on that end who are saying, well, of course he said that to me, so of course I hit him, for example. And talking to them about how we're giving up the power to the other person when what they say or do fuels our reaction. When we lose that control, they're taking over the power. And we have the right to have power over our own lives and over how we react. And then helping build that sense of understanding that if I do back away from that fight, if I do take steps to avoid that, that doesn't mean that the kids are going to laugh at me. And even if they do, it doesn't matter, because now I see that that's me taking power, and that's me taking control, and having a say in what happens next, and having control over the next step in my life. And then for some students, it's just trying to develop the belief that I have something valuable to say. Some students feel like never called on. I sit in the back of the classroom. No one really notices me. I listen to my friends, but my friends don't listen to me. And just knowing that what they have to say is important. And that might be fueled just by the sheer fact that someone is taking the time to meet with them once a week and listen to what they have to say. And then I believe in a very direct approach with these students, so I will clearly point out to them when they're saying something that's very negative, that's going to fuel the negative thinking. I'll let them know, look, I am making time for you out of my schedule because what you have to say is important. It's just helping them build that, because some of them haven't really, they may have experienced it and not even realized it. And sometimes we have to make that a clear pinpoint point that we show them. As far as action, what do we learn? One of the most common things that I work on with students is a stop technique. And we practice it and we model it about just simply, if someone comes up and someone's saying gossip or someone's saying something about you, someone's trying to start something, it's just a matter of looking at them in the eye, making eye contact, and telling them stop. And taking the power back, because we're not asking. A lot of them will ask. A lot of times students will ask, can you stop it? Now you're giving the power to the other person to say, no, I'm not going to. And then what do you do from there? But instead, taking the power back and telling them, stop it. And then you end the conversation by moving onward and not engaging in it anymore. It's a hard thing. It's not nearly as easy as it sounds, of course. But working with a lot of students to try to develop that ability, sometimes it's hard for them just to even look someone in the eye, much less even say anything. But then saying that, and then there's also the other piece a lot of times with gossip, and some of the gossip is very dramatic, and some of the drama can be very hurtful that's going on out there. So, but the idea then, for some students, of being able to say stop and then remove themselves is incredibly difficult because they want to get the last word in. Well, our perception now is changing so that we realize stop is our last word, and now we've ended it because we took the power back. There's a lot of practicing that goes on, and another thing is putting the emphasis on seeking support, seeking assistance from adults is your choice, and that's a responsibility that you can take, and it's something to be proud of when you do it because you recognize that you need that support. And I'll even work with students on just trying to figure out who that support is. What is your plan of support? What is your action plan? What is going to happen? If it gets to this level, where do you go? What's your automatic response? But letting them know that this is a responsibility, this is a choice that you're making, and you're taking power back just by including other people. And that yes, and you can have the power to decide who you're going to include. There might be some adults you want to and some that you don't. Someone you feel comfortable going to and someone who you aren't. And what happens if they're not available and those kinds of things. Helping really develop those problem-solving skills as well within that context. Did I only go one? I didn't skip one, did I? Okay. So at home, one of the biggest things, like we were saying on the video, is, talking. Well, sometimes our students don't talk back, right? But we can still talk to them and we can still encourage that. The idea that she had about having just a set time every day, this is the time that we talk. And you know what, maybe you don't talk that day, but we're still going to hang out in the same room and just kind of relax or whatever, because this is our time to talk. And nothing else fills that time. That's how important it is at this time is set aside always for us. So talking as much as you can, having an open environment where the whole family shares. No one judges. That's just the way it is. We just share. There's no judgment. That can be difficult, of course, especially with siblings. But that's the expectation. Sometimes we find that children who are especially depressed or who have more behavioral concerns, things like that, they become the focus at home. What happened to you today? What did it go? But no one ever tells them what happened to them. So now it's like this negative thing that I have to share everything. It's like a punishment because I've been bad or I've been sad, so I better hide that. And then you lead into all other sorts of problems. So making sure that you're giving that open environment as much as you can. Daily situations, daily examples, every day. She was talking about this in the video also. You're just constantly talking about, you see someone at the park and they're having an argument. Wow, what do you think they should do next? What do you think's going on there? What would you do if you were in that situation? Just helping develop that communication about problem solving, to bring in that dialogue about, You know, wow, they're really arguing. Who do you think has the control over that situation? How could they take the power back? How could she get her power back? Just having those kinds of dialogue, because then when you really need to have that conversation, we already know what we're talking about. A couple of specific strategies that recommend that sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. Some students have a peaks and valleys where every day they go home and, you know, everyone at the house, or at least a student and a parent, shares the peak of the day and the valley of the day, the high and the low. And it goes both ways. That's the key, is it's not just me telling you, you're going to tell me your peak and valley too. And maybe we can figure out something to do about the valley. Maybe we just have to go, hope that's better tomorrow. Maybe we can celebrate the peak. So, but every day we're sharing those. And then a shared journal. Some students, especially girls, tend to like this one, where they actually do a journal back and forth with their parents. Or they have their own journal where they write notes back and forth to each other. Some students really enjoy that, and some students find that writing really helps them to share a little bit more than they would feel comfortable verbalizing. So again, not every student's going to respond, but that's why we have lots of strategies, so we can always try something else. So when should I be worried? When should I think about getting some extra support? I wanted to make sure that we covered, and this is something that the teachers have been given, this is specific information that students were given in the ACT presentations. When should I worry about someone? When should I really think that there might be something else going on, I might need more support? And there's some key warning signs: absolute withdrawal, comments about wanting to hurt oneself, wanting to die, even more vague comments like, I wish I didn't have to wake up anymore. Those kinds of things are all concerning. Increase in risk-taking behavior, alcohol, substance abuse, just activities that they're doing with their friends that maybe they're, with whatever physical activities that they're doing, they're becoming much more risky. Depressive symptoms, hopelessness, feelings of guilt, not wanting to eat, having problems sleeping, those kinds of things that fall in line with depression, seeing those. Wide mood swings. Now, they're adolescents, so there are mood swings. But we want to look compared to other kids their age. Really, am I hearing other parents talking about their kid, going to this extreme and punching holes in the wall when they have their mood swings? I'm not hearing that. I wonder if this is excessive. This is excessive for this age, and kind of keeping a note of that. Decrease in school performance. Your big key, and this is what I told students too, is the big key is change. Some people are moodier than others, but the key is that when you see a big change in who they are, their personality, their interactions, their relationships, what their interests are. They used to be in yearbook and stuff, and now they really don't care about that. They used to be on the phone, and now I'll talk to them on Facebook later on. Changes like that, those are warning signs. It doesn't mean anything necessarily is going to happen, but those are signs that something's going on, and we might start needing to worry and getting some support. There is an acronym on the side. It actually says, "Is Path Warm?" So that's an acronym of different kinds of warning signs. This actually comes from an association related to suicide prevention. And these are key warning signs that any one of them in and of itself may or may not be a big thing. But the more that you're filling in the path, the more that you're filling in the words, "Is path warm?" and going, oh yeah, the more that the worry should be there. The more that you're looking at an overall composite of warning and possible risk of self-harm in some form. So the ideation, just thinking about wanting to hurt oneself more, maybe talking about it, even if it's just in anger, if those things are coming out, that's a concern. Substance abuse, having a sense of purposelessness, not really feeling connected. Why do I go to school? What's the point? Why should I do that? That kind of attitude. And that's some of those students are the ones that we're trying to target with the mentoring program, so that they do feel like they have a purpose in coming, at least one day a week. The anxiety is high in middle school, but the more and more it increases, and not having the strategies to go along with it, and not being able to take your suggestions of, well, have you tried doing some deep breaths before a test, and not being able to implement those things and reduce the anxiety is when it really gets concerning. Feeling trapped, feeling hopeless. There's no point. One of the things I ask students, we do suicide risk assessments here when we have students of a concern. And that's just a process that Kyrene has been establishing this year. And and one of the key questions that I ask students is, do you think that you can get out of this? Can you envision a time when you're not feeling like this? Can you envision a time when people aren't bugging you, when people aren't bullying you? And the answer to that is critical, because if yes, I can, there's that sense of hope there. There's a sense, okay, all I need is someone to help me. But no, I can't envision it, then that's a real concern, because that's a real sense of being lost and trapped and not being able to get out. Withdrawal, anger, recklessness again, and the extreme mood changes. So that's a good acronym to just kind of keep in mind, that is path-form when we're looking at that. So what if you're worried? Please don't handle it alone. Please communicate with us. Consider looking at private supports. You can always contact your insurance company and ask them for lists of providers. But you can always contact us too and say, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. Where can I go? We can offer resources. We can give you some ideas of referrals outside and private. But more importantly, we can provide support at the school. Sometimes people think of us as so disconnected from the emotional aspects of what it is to be a child. No, we can address that. We can help you with that here too. We can give them supports. So you can contact one of us. If you do have private supports, please let us know. If they're going to see a psychologist once or twice a week, let us know, because we can get your permission to communicate with that person. And whatever that 1 hour a week that they're in that person's office isn't going to generalize anywhere unless people have an idea of how to help generalize it. And we can work with that provider and help to bring those supports into the school as well, and to encourage those development of those skills. And we can also provide our supports on this end. And the biggest thing is, so many times when we have an issue, the first big outburst with the holes in the wall and all that kind of stuff. Oh my gosh, we need to get a counselor, we need to get a psychologist. Wait. Okay, well, he's doing better now. And my big message is, if it happened once, it can happen again. And why wait for it to occur again? If we can intervene now after it's just happened once, and then get to a point where it doesn't happen again, then we've been successful. So if you think about seeking that support, please follow through with it, because it really can't harm your child or you. We do a number of things. We develop coping plans with students about what can they do, what are their triggers, what are their stressors, what are their coping steps, what can they do for distraction, what can they do for release so that they don't hold it all in, who are their go-to people. We can do all kinds of coping plans. We do safety plans when there are students who we are concerned about either being hurt by someone else or hurting themselves. We put in all kinds of implementations to make sure that students are safe and that they don't have that opportunity within the school. We do no harm contracts with students who have thought about hurting themselves or who may have engaged in some minor self-injury in the past, things like scratching with a paper clip, things like that, which there's a lot of that stuff that goes on. So we can do no harm contracts with them, or we build a relationship with the child and they help us develop a plan that I am not going to hurt myself. This is what I'm going to do instead. And I promise by signing this is my promise. My promise is my signature that I will not do it. And sometimes we review those every day. We have to keep reviewing the contract. And then eventually they can phase out of it. But we can do those things. We can give you resources, like I said. We can help with the development of coping, social skills, problem-solving skills through individual and group counseling. We can just have a check-in person. We have a lot of students who just go see an administrator in the morning because that's kind of their go-to person. And they go and see them and they just need that check-in. They just need that personal connection every day. We can do those kinds of things. And one of the biggest preventative measures to prevent suicide among adolescents is a feeling of positive school connectedness. So we are obviously a big factor in that emotional well-being. So we can design, and that's oftentimes our focus, is this child hates school. This child thinks everyone hates them. How do we address that? How do we develop supports? What can we do for them? How can we help them get connected in a way that's feasible to them? And we'll include them in that plan also. But we can definitely make those kinds of efforts to make sure that children develop something positive. The rest of the presentation, this is really why I wanted to give you the handouts, is there's a number of resources. This one is off through the National Association for School Psychologists, but it has an open parent section, Family Resource Center, with all kinds of information sheets, warning signs, strategies, things you can do at home. So there's all kinds of information that can be gotten there. These are some other websites that can be helpful. And then I also included some hotlines. because every now and then we do have a major crisis in our house. And we don't see them coming, that's why it's a crisis. So I always encourage people to be prepared. I try to keep these in my phone. Just like I for a long time with the little ones, I've kept the poison control number, because I just don't know when I'm going to need it, so I better make sure I'm prepared for it. So these are the kinds of numbers. The Maricopa County Crisis Line is any mental health crisis. MPACT is suicide prevention, but they'll also do like some just extreme outbursts and out of control behavior, and they will come and do supports. They do a little assessment at the time and help you figure out what to do next. Do we need to consider hospitalization? Do we need a safe place for overnight? What do we need to stabilize the situation and get it under control? And then the Teen Lifeline is really just a place for teenagers to call. It can be about anything. And they actually have teams answering the phones, I think from like 3 to 6. But it is a 24-hour line, if I'm correct. And then that's the rest of the YouTube video. So do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Yes.
I should have 3 questions.